As the end times have shown us, the Skaven always have that potential to be one of the most powerful and overwhelming forces in the mortal realms. However, part of the Horned Rat's ideology dictates that the Skaven must always strive to be the best and struggle for supremacy. This characteristic flows from the Horned Rat himself. Each Skaven believes he is the greatest of his race, that he is the one destined to lead and rule the Skaven. On an individual level, this means that the Skaven are always trying to outdo their betters, backstab and scheme, and if you're at the top of the pile, well, you better watch your back. Hello friends, it's Smoketown again, and today we are looking at some more Age of Sigmar lore, and this time we're looking at one of my favourite races, the Skaven, and why they always end up in civil wars and fighting with each other as much as they fight with other races. The Skaven battle tome tells us that the Horned Rat believes that this type of process will weed out the weak, in a continual process until the race eventually increases in strength and cunning. This ideal and compulsion sometimes goes beyond individual scheming for personal gain, and it goes to the highest level of Skaven society in Blight City and beyond, with the great clans of Skaven society acting against each other to vie for supremacy over the Skaven race as a whole. As a background to this constant struggle, the battle tome describes a good make-up of the clans and society, and it does it quite in a succinct way, so I'll just read it. Skaven society is made up of clans, each of which derives from one of the 5 great clans, named Verminous, Squire, Pestilence, Eshin and Moulder. Each of these great clans has its own distinct areas of expertise and ways of making war, and each is wholly convinced that they, and they alone, should rule Skavendon. In a lot of ways, this battle for supremacy is measured and counted by the seats of the Council of 13, where the ultimate rule of Skaven society is derived from. This council comprises of 12 Lords of Decay, or Councillors, who mainly represent the most powerful clans of the Skaven. The ownership of these 12 seats vary from age to age, as the struggle between the clans wanes and continues, and different clans grow in strength and wane in strength while others wax. These power plays usually take place between the great clans at the highest level, who have enjoyed preeminence at different points in history, and the way in which Skaven society operates often reflects which clan is in power or in ascendancy. One example of this that the battle tome gives is that when Clan Verminous rules the council, which it did at one point, and we'll look at that later, Verminous represents the martial aspect of the Skaven, big armies, storm vermin, lots of clan rats. At that point, Skaven forces mainly rely on force of arms and numbers as their main tactic to overwhelm their enemies. Whereas, if it was Clan Pestilence in ascendancy, they would resort to their plague monks and great plagues and other plague weapons to overwhelm their enemies. Part of this never-ending conflict between the clan also comes from the methods and way in which they see the Horned Rat. The Horned Rat is a god of many aspects, represented by the different versions of vermin lords you can get, which essentially are a personification of its personality. For example, Clan Pestilence see the god as the Great Corruptor, who wants to see the world transformed into a withered ruin, and this is very different from the way that Clan Squire sees their god. At one stage during the Age of Chaos, the Great Skaven Civil War broke out in Skavendon, due to the rising preeminence of certain clans as the Skaven reaped the rewards of war during the Age of Chaos. 2 great clans in particular came to power, and that was the clans Verminous and the clans Ick, and between them they owned 4 chairs each of the Council of 13, so that's 8 out of the 12, so pretty significant. The civil war erupts as the 2 probably try to seize those last seats and get the kind of majority of the board almost. Verminous managed to get the advantage after decades of fighting, when they ally with the clan Pestilence, the best clan of course, who spread plague amongst the clan Ick, and they are transformed into horrible beasts. Skavendon is overrun with the resulting abominations, and so the battle continues, but Verminous would eventually emerge victorious because of this ploy. The war would ultimately last 26 years, and while other clans were embroiled in the conflict, Pestilence would make gains in Gairan by standing beside Nurgle. The way in which these clans try to outdo each other and gain supremacy over the others varies, from backstabbing, politics, to out-and-out warfare. As the situation currently stands, Pestilence and Squire are the 2 clans nearest to total domination of the Council of 13, much like Clan Verminous and Clan Ick in years past. Pestilence, as I've mentioned, stood beside Nurgle in the War of Life, the Nurgle-led war in Gairan during the Age of Chaos, and now if you aren't familiar with the details of that, 2plus Tough did a really fantastic take on this event recently, in a really new video, so I highly recommend you check him out and check that video out. While a lot of Nurgle's work and conquests were actually undone with the awakening of Alariel and this coming of the Stormcast Eternals at the beginning of Age of Sigmar, Pestilence took their allies' defeats as a further chance to expand their territories, not only because they could blame the defeat on their Nurgle allies, but also they could capture abandoned Nurgle strongholds, and they could create burrows under the newly founded cities of Order, and therefore they have gained much from the wars, and their size of troops has swollen, and currently they probably have the biggest martial force in their Plague Monks. On the other hand, Clan Squire has influence in another way, having power through wealth and technology, by developing some serious weaponry and selling it to other clans, and fortifying their bases around Blight City, the capital of Skavendom. In the wake of the Necroquake, both clans are agitating, jumping for a fight, posturing, and it's close to civil war like it was before, between Pestilence and Squire. Go Pestilence. With the other clans looking to back one side or the other when it suits them, and it seems inevitable that civil war is on the horizon. And no doubt this is part of the intent of the Horned Rat, who probably wouldn't want to stop these things, as infighting is part of his creed. He will let it run as long as it benefits his progeny by weeding out the weak and making his race stronger as a whole, but will stop it when he must focus his children elsewhere on a common enemy. For in the past civil war it was Screech Vermin King himself who acted as an emissary for the Horned Rat, obliterated the conflicting armies, and commanded that they cease the civil war, as they were losing out to the other Chaos Gods, as the other four grew in power while they were distracted. And so, while it is part and parcel of Skaven society, the Great Horned Rat watches and has control over his children ultimately, and will stop it when he needs to. But, as he sees it, it is part of creating the greatest race of all time. So thanks guys, that is my take on the Civil Wars of the Skaven, the never-ending conflict between the clans that will always be a part of Skaven society. If you like this video, please consider giving me a like and a subscribe, as I will be covering plenty more Age of Sigmar lore, as I love it. And thanks for your support and watching the video. Take care and have a nice night.